What if I told you that the ideas of one man, born over 2,000 years ago, still shape how we think about life, science, and morality today? Imagine a philosopher whose influence spans from the depths of the human mind to the vastness of the stars. That man is Aristotle, and his revolutionary ideas continue to guide our understanding of the world. In this video, we'll dive into the incredible philosophy of Aristotle, uncovering how his wisdom continues to impact our lives in ways we might not even realize. Aristotle was born in 384 BCE in a town called Stagira in ancient Greece. He became a student of Plato at the Academy in Athens, where he spent about 20 years learning from one of the greatest minds of the time. Although Plato was his teacher, Aristotle developed his own ideas that often diverged from his mentor's philosophy. After leaving Athens, Aristotle tutored the young Alexander the Great before returning to Athens to establish his own school, the Lyceum. Here, he taught and developed his thoughts on a wide range of subjects, from biology and politics to ethics and metaphysics. Unlike some philosophers who specialized in one area, Aristotle's work spanned almost every field of knowledge available at the time. Aristotle's philosophy laid the foundation for many areas of modern thought, and his ideas have influenced thinkers for centuries. Today, we're going to break down some of the key aspects of Aristotle's philosophy in simple terms. Aristotle was deeply interested in how and why things happen in the world. To explain the changes and movements around us, he developed a theory known as the four causes. These causes are like different perspectives we can use to understand an object or event. Let's go over them. Material cause. This answers the question, what is something made of? For example, the material cause of a wooden table is the wood. Formal cause. This refers to the shape or design of something. In our example, the formal cause of the table is the plan or blueprint that makes the wood take the form of a table. Efficient cause. This is the answer to how did it come to be? It's the cause of the actual change or production. In the case of the table, the efficient cause is the carpenter who built it. Final cause. This is the purpose or goal of something. Why does it exist? For the table, its final cause is to serve as a surface for people to use, like placing items or eating food. The final cause is particularly important because it reflects Aristotle's belief that everything in the universe has a purpose or function. This idea of purpose, known as teleology, is central to his philosophy. Aristotle was fascinated by the nature of being. He asked questions like, what does it mean for something to exist? What is the essence of a thing? To answer these, he developed a theory called hylomorphism. In simple terms, this means that everything in the world is made up of two parts, substance and form. Substance is what something is made of, like the physical material of a rock or a tree. Form is the shape, structure, or essence of that thing. For example, the form of a tree is what makes a tree, rather than just a bunch of wood or leaves. In Aristotle's view, everything has both substance and form. You can think of substance as the stuff and form as the organization or blueprint of that stuff. But he didn't stop there. Aristotle also introduced the concept of potentiality and actuality. Potentiality refers to what something could become, while actuality is what it is right now. For example, a seed has the potential to become a tree, but a fully grown tree is the actuality of that seed's potential. This idea helped Aristotle explain how change occurs in the world. For him, everything is in a constant state of movement from potentiality to actuality, always moving toward fulfilling its purpose or final cause. One of Aristotle's most famous contributions to philosophy is his work on ethics, specifically the idea of how to live a good life. For Aristotle, the ultimate goal of human life is happiness, but not happiness in the way we often think of it today. Aristotle used the term eudaimonia, which is often translated as flourishing or well-being. Eudaimonia is achieved not through short-term pleasures, but through living a life of virtue and fulfilling one's potential. According to Aristotle, humans are rational beings, and our happiness comes from living in accordance with reason. But how do we do that? This is where his concept of the golden mean comes in. The golden mean is the idea that virtue lies between two extremes, excess and deficiency. For example, courage is the virtue between recklessness, too much fearlessness, and cowardice, too little courage. Generosity is the virtue between wastefulness, too much giving, and stinginess, too little giving. Aristotle believed that by practicing moderation and finding balance in our actions, we can develop good habits, what he called virtues, and live a life of moral excellence. Over time, these habits help us achieve eudaimonia, a life of purpose, fulfillment, and flourishing. Aristotle didn't just think about the individual, he also explored what makes a good society. In his work Politics, Aristotle described how humans are naturally social creatures who thrive in communities. He famously said, "Man is by nature a political animal," meaning that people can only achieve their full potential when they live in a society. For Aristotle, the purpose of the state is to promote the good life for its citizens. But he didn't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach to government. Instead, he analyzed different forms of government and identified three main types: monarchy, ruled by one; aristocracy, ruled by a few, usually the best or most virtuous; polity, ruled by many, often through a mix of democracy and oligarchy. He also noted the corrupt versions of these governments: tyranny, a corrupt monarchy; oligarchy, a corrupt aristocracy where the wealthy rule for their own benefit; democracy, which he saw as a corrupt version of polity, where the majority rules for selfish interests. Aristotle believed the best form of government would depend on the specific circumstances of each society, but in general, he favored a polity, a balanced, mixed government where power is shared by the many. Aristotle wasn't just a philosopher, he was also one of the first natural scientists. He spent a lot of time observing the world around him and was particularly interested in biology. He believed that to understand something, you needed to look closely at how it functions in the natural world. Aristotle's method of observation and classification laid the groundwork for modern science. He studied animals, plants, and other living organisms, classifying them based on their characteristics. For example, he categorized animals based on how they moved, whether they swam, flew, or walked on land. Although some of Aristotle's scientific ideas were later proven wrong, such as his belief that the heart was the seat of intelligence instead of the brain, his method of careful observation and logical reasoning became a cornerstone of the scientific method. One of Aristotle's greatest achievements was his development of logic, particularly the concept of the syllogism. A syllogism is a form of reasoning where a conclusion is drawn from two premises. For example, premise 1, all humans are mortal. Premise 2, Socrates is a human. Conclusion, therefore, Socrates is mortal. This kind of logical structure was groundbreaking in its time and has been fundamental to reasoning and argumentation ever since. Aristotle's logical works, known as the Organon, set the stage for formal logic, which would be expanded upon by philosophers throughout history. Aristotle's influence didn't end with his death. In fact, his works were rediscovered during the Middle Ages and became a key part of Western education and philosophy. Thomas Aquinas, a medieval philosopher and theologian, adapted Aristotle's ideas into Christian theology, especially his concept of the final cause or purpose, which Aquinas related to God's divine plan. Aristotle's work also had a lasting impact on the Renaissance and the development of modern science, His method of systematic observation and categorization inspired early scientists to approach the natural world with a logical, empirical mindset. Today, Aristotle's ideas are still studied and debated by philosophers, scientists, and scholars. His teachings on ethics, politics, and logic continue to shape the way we think about morality, government, and reasoning. Aristotle's philosophy covers an incredible range of topics, from the nature of reality and ethics to politics and science. He believed that everything has a purpose, and that the highest human purpose is to achieve happiness through virtue and reason. His ideas about balance, purpose, and rationality are timeless, offering wisdom that is as relevant today as it was in ancient Greece.